Boy.
All right, folks. Welcome to this session. This is the first time I've had two back-to-back sessions, so this is exciting for me. And a little bit, I'm getting some more gray hairs here, um, but excited for this one. This is the first session I've done with. I'll call it a non-corporate use case of these products. When we think of things like Jira and Confluence, we tend to think of a big company using it. And in this case, that's not what we're going to talk about. My friend Kythera is going to share how she uses Jira and Confluence to manage personal projects. And this to me is really exciting because it's another way to use these tools that we can benefit from and we can learn from what we do, in the corporate world, but we can also manage our daily lives. So it's not just about these gigantic projects. Kythera's done this amazing work in figuring out how to leverage these tools in different ways. And so I think she's done an awesome job. So I'm here to just kind of chat with her about this, but really she's going to be showing off how she's made this work. So we've got some slides that kind of talk through it all. But she's also going to show us like back and forth real life examples of using Jira to support her work. So I'm going to stop talking for a bit and let Kythera introduce herself.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kythera. My background is in the video game industry, but most recently I was a solo technical writer for a pretty large enterprise company. Documentation and technical writing is what I do. It's what I love. It's also how I first encountered Confluence and Jira. And, during the course of this, one day I realized, okay, hold on. This Jira thing makes keeping track of my day job work easier. Why can't I apply that to my personal life? There is literally no rule saying you cannot go and register a free Jira account and set up a Jira project however you want. So I went and did the thing. And I've been running my life on 1 week sprints for, I think, 3 years now.
Wow.
And it's one of the best things I've ever done for myself. I'm neurodivergent. I was, diagnosed with ADHD a few years ago. And, typical of, other ADHD folks, I tried paper planners. I've tried planner apps. None of that worked for me. Something about Jira was that was the key. And for me personally, I think part of it was the power of having the backlog function of the Scrum project types.
Yes.
And that helps me use, because, ADHD object permanence is sort of a thing. If it's not immediately in front of you, it's kind of easy to forget about it. And the backlog actually used that to my advantage. I'm not overwhelmed by, all the stuff I have to do in the future. I get to focus on what I need to do now, but we can get into that more later.
Well, what I love about that story, Kythera, is identifying the need. Like this is how you are, right? Acknowledging that, and then finding a thing to help support that. When I was in like grade school, drove my mom nuts because I would write down on a scrap of paper my homework. You lose the paper, you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad that there are tools like this that can help us keep track of things. But should we jump into our slides first, or do you want to keep chatting? How do you want to?
Let's dive into the slides.
All right. As I say that, let me make sure I have them available. We should probably start at the first slide too and not at the end, huh?
Probably.
All right, folks. Again, usually, if you're familiar with my channel, we'll be doing some slides, but then we're really going to be jumping into the meat of it. Again, where Kythera is going to be showing us how she's able to do this. Let me go find. Here we go. So first, quick ways of introduction. Kythera's already partially introduced herself, but anything else you want to add to that introduction you haven't already covered?
I think that's kind of the meat of it. And the nitty gritty is in the slide that's on the screen right now. I'm seeing some chat comments. Did you write your slides on a piece of paper? I did not. I don't know what Rob actually set up the slide deck. I'm not sure what he does behind the scenes.
That is a great question. I am awful at creating slides. I'm typically in a scramble. Folks who have seen me before will see that Kythera is always on my back about, oh, you didn't proofread anything. Why does this not make any sense? So I don't sketch them out. I really should. I am now a professional content creator, so hopefully I'll have more time to do that. But I'm really thankful that Kythera took a look at the first slides I produced, and she has made them look a heck of a lot better. And David, thank you for the radio voice. That's just my voice. Oh, forgot the gargoyle. There we go. I guess we'll hear about your artistic endeavors later, Kythera.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Perfect. I'm Rob. My fun fact is I have basically no artistic talent. Um, at least in terms of graphic art, my wife was always telling me, no, your artistic talent is editing and creating, which is fair. But I come through all of these tools mostly. Thanks, Chad. um, I came to all of these tools professionally, and that's how many people approach them, which is why I was so excited to get to work with Kythera on this, because there are other ways to use it, and we can benefit from them in different areas. Um, this is being recorded. It will live on my YouTube channel, so you can always come find it, and I'll send out a follow-up for folks who registered with a link and things. Um, I guess here's one. We saw this on your slide, Kythera. What does the term neurospicy mean in this context?
Neurospicy. I'm not sure who originated the term or when, but that's a fun way of saying you're neurodivergent. That includes a range of things. ADHD and autism spectrum disorder are probably the most well-known, but that can include bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, any sort of, mental health struggle you have or challenge that sets you apart from anyone who is neurotypical, someone who's not operating with ADHD or any of those other things.
No, I appreciate the question, Tushar, because I'd
Yeah,
spoken to
for sure.
people who've used it, and I could kind of puzzle it out through context. But it's again another reminder, and Kythera mentioned just keeping
Mhm.
track of stuff in a backlog. My own experience, I had, I think, ADD. I forget which diagnosis I've had over the years,
Mm.
but finding ways to support and leverage just how our brains work.
Yeah.
Because if it is different, quote unquote, than whatever normal is, it can be challenging because someone expects you to think or work in a
Mhm.
certain way, and you work slightly differently. And that's where using tools like Jira, we can help, support ourselves and do what we need to do.
Yep.
All the usual interaction exists. Please keep using the chat. Drop in your questions, drop in your comments. If you have something to add, please put that. If you want to, help answer a question, put it in there. And also, easiest way to support me and Kythera, just hit the like button, and we'll also have more about what Kythera's up to at the end. So I'm happy to give her an opportunity to kind of share what she's looking to do and ways you can support Kythera in this. But mainly use the chat. Love to hear from you all. Very quick agenda. And then Kythera's going to kind of take this away. I'll just be pushing buttons on the slides, and she'll show us live Jira. Um, we're mainly going to focus on things like planning, and then how do we set up and use Jira? And by we, I mean Kythera. How does Kythera set up and use Jira? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, everything we're doing, Kythera, can be done in free Jira, so the one you
Ye-
can just get.
Yes, absolutely. I have only been using the free version of Jira. So everything that I'm going to show you today, you can do for zero monetary cost.
Even better. So that's a really cool plus about this. And then we'll get hands-on with a lot of that. What kind of work item types or automations you're planning. Um, I guess a quick poll to consider, and then off to Kythera, but have you used Jira for personal projects? And I'll just call it like personal use.
Mhm.
I have not, I'll be honest. um, so I guess I'll take this one at a high level. Jira is just an online work tracking tool. Again, here we're not going to talk about the common use cases or the ones I am used to. We're going to let Kythera showcase how she uses it for personal use. So just keep in mind, in general, it's about work tracking and management.
Mhm.
However, Kythera, I'll let you take it from here with the glowing green arrows you've added. Thank you.
um, Canva has a lot of fun tools, and I was enjoying playing with all of these while I was adding to Rob's slides here. So yeah, you can absolutely register a free Jira instance. There are, the paid versions that have a whole lot more bells and whistles, but if you're only, a team of one, the free version is more than enough to get you started and carry you through whatever you want to do. So, once you get to the Jira registration page, you click on the, get it now button under the free version and you're good to go.
And I'm trying to find a link to drop in there just so folks can have it. But it's just that simply an email. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, when I first approached this, I thought about, okay, what sort of things do I want to keep track of, and what information do I need related to all of these tasks? So for me, that meant setting up a bunch of custom work item types. When you're using this in a business context, usually less is more. You don't want to, flood your projects with a bunch of, a million different kinds of work items. Things get really cluttered really fast. But when you're the only one who's using the Jira project, it's sort of whatever works for you. And for me, custom work item types where I can customize the icon attached to each work item type made it a lot easier for me to tell at a glance, okay, what is this task about? So if you see, the key demo-9, that's a bell because that's a reminder. Okay, so that's reminder to ask Rob about that thing. I set up a bunch of really silly things for the project to set up for this demo. So a lot of this is not a lot of the stuff on that you're going to see is real. Some of it's meant to be funny. But yeah, call Rob about that thing. I did not, in fact, call Rob, but I did ask him about it this morning on Discord.
And what I like about this are the emoticons. Is that what these are? Emojis?
Emoticons, emojis, same thing.
Yeah, this is nothing that I've used in Jira ever. So just knowing that this can be done is kind of like, oh, interesting. This can help me, guide a professional, quote unquote, corporate, quote unquote team.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I
Oh, yeah.
forget where all the, there we go.
Yeah.
I forget where all the crayon markers are.
Yeah. So what sort of tasks do you want to track? The icons help with that. In the summary, I'll put some of the key information for that task that I need to see at a glance. So for that second item that's circled, which is today, the event that we're in right now, Friday, August 22nd at noon, my time, I'm doing this live stream with Rob. So that's the most important information. So I put that right there in the issue summary or work item summary.
And
do you have your buzzer sound?
I was going to say the term work item and issue are effectively synonymous. It's just something we need to track. And I'll go back and forth.
Yeah. Future planning. This is where it gets into how I work with how my brain works. I think about what I need to do in the future, whether it's near future or distant future. I will absolutely put in work items for, say, a doctor's appointment that I have 3 months out. I need to remember that's coming up, but I don't necessarily need to think about it today.
Oh, sorry.
Rob changed tabs. I'll also put in items for things I need to remember pretty much right away. Let's say, I get a call from a recruiter right after this call and they want to set up a longer call. Well, tomorrow's Saturday, but on Monday, I'd put in a work item to remind myself, okay, I have this recruiter call scheduled for Monday. I also thought about the things I need to do every week because, we all have chores. We all have things we need to do on a regular basis. And keeping track of those things in my Jira actually helps me. I can look at, my to-do list and say, okay, what have I already accomplished this week? What do I still need to work on? And if there's anything that, throws a monkey wrench into any of those plans, I can add comments to those work items, to help me keep track of what's going on, why something hasn't gotten done yet. But we can get into that more later.
And this is where, like, when I've used this in corporate jobs, we'll spend a lot of time planning out to the future.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's just from a single project. What I've noticed as you use it, it's more for like day-to-day tasks that occur repeatedly. So it's not just the big one-off things. It's just what you need to do to have a successful week or a successful day.
I mean, most of it is, my weekly tasks, but I will absolutely use it for planning the bigger things. One of the sample epics I have in here is for planning a big travel adventure. So I'll create an epic for work items that are related to a bigger task like travel, planning for travel, or let's say there's a big art project I'm working on. I'll make an epic for that and smaller subtasks to track all the smaller things, like if I need to order certain supplies, if I'm working with somebody, tasks for meetings with that person, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. So using it for both the day-to-day things that are repeatable, but also the big one-offs that pop up.
Yep. So I mentioned using epics in software development and things like that. Epics are usually used for tracking, say, an update to a software application. Well, for my purposes, I'm not developing software, I'm running my life. I'll use epics a little bit differently. I'll use them to group similar work item types, like my recurring weekly tasks. Each week, there's a new epic with the repeating task I need to get done that week. Or for, this bigger one-off projects, like my imaginary trip to Bimini, that's got its own epic. And if you're as dorky as I am, Bimini is a reference to designing women. For some reason, the big travel adventure was always going to Bimini. I don't know why, but that was the shtick.
I thought it was SpongeBob, but that's that's
That's
Bikini
Bikini
Bottom.
Bottom. Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry. There's a B in there somewhere.
So once I put in a bunch of work items in my backlog, I use sprints to plan out what I need to get done in a week. A lot of teams will use 2-week sprints on average, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. It depends on the team. But for me, 1-week sprints made sense. It kind of matches up with the calendar. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I think a lot of us think of our time in 1-week blocks. What do I need to get done this week? What do I need to do next week? So I set my sprint length as 7 days. But to match my work schedule, I start my sprints on Mondays. If it makes more sense to you to go Sunday to Sunday, do whatever works. Whatever I'm describing here is what works for me. Absolutely modify this to whatever works for you. If 2-week sprints makes more sense for you, do 2-week sprints. If starting on Sundays makes more sense, start on Sundays. Start on Tuesdays if you want. It is up to you and whatever works for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out because it's very easy for us to get stuck, myself included. In, I was shown it works this way, and then it only works that way. Yeah, to Kythera's point, this is all a starting point that works for
Yeah.
her, and you can then modify and change and adapt.
Yeah.
The main thing we're calling out here is this doesn't have to be just for corporate work, which to me is pretty neat.
Right.
And I think we've got a teleport into Jira. So you had some hands-on stuff you wanted to walk us through,
Yes,
right?
let's do that. Let me share my screen. Alrighty, we should be good to go. I think.
This might be a...
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Huzzah!
That one's on me, folks.
Okay, so here's the demo Jira project that I put together just for this live stream. It's already got a sprint in progress because, we're on Friday. We're almost to the end of our sprint. So the first step, the first section you'll see in my dashboard, which I have, I've clicked the group by epic button up here. So that groups all of my work items according to the epic that they're linked to. And that helps me visually keep things organized. I can untoggle that. Oops, none. And that'll just dump everything into the 3 to do, in progress, and done swim lanes. For me, that can get a bit overwhelming and a little tangled. So I like using the epic grouping to help keep things a bit more organized. We can see, haven't done my laundry yet, but I've taken out the trash. My weekly appointment, got that done. I've already run the dishes once this week. Changing the litter boxes. So I have 2 cats, so I have 2 litter boxes, which is good practice. Changed one on Monday, but the other one, they haven't used much, so I haven't changed it yet. I'll check again tomorrow. Or maybe later today. We'll see.
And you're using the epics here just to be, the general weekly task for the week of the 18th. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've named my epic weekly tasks August 18th through 25th, and I put the year because, like I mentioned, I've been doing this for 3 years. So if I want to search my past work items, having the year in there helps me identify, okay, this is this week from this year, not last year. Or, if something comes up from 2 years ago, I can say, that's not the result I want. I can also minimize that group to skip to the rest of the items in my dashboard. So yeah, I absolutely had work items related to this live stream. As you can see, I've already moved it to in progress because we're working on it now. Trip to Bimini. I'm working on booking that imaginary flight. I'm calling some travel agents, gathering some quotes. As soon as I get the flight, then I can book that hotel room.
Gotcha. And so I'm just thinking through, you've got the weekly stuff. Are you planning out how many future sprints do you insert? Like this is this week, right?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So let me click over to my backlog. For this demo, I've got this week is in progress. I've already collapsed that. It stays collapsed. I already created a set of my repeat tasks for next week, but I haven't done a whole lot of planning beyond that yet. But I probably will soon because I have some stuff that's coming up beginning and middle of September. So if I was going to do my sprint planning, say Saturday or Sunday, click this create sprint button. And once you've put in some date ranges for previous sprints, when you click create sprint, Jira's pretty smart. It'll automatically create a new sprint name and a date range based on your previous sprints, which is pretty useful.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing that it's already added the date ranges, okay, I've got that's on the 17th, so that's not going to be in sprint 4. But this one here, September 1st for Labor Day, I'll go ahead and drop that into sprint 3 because sprint 3 is going to actually start on Labor Day. So
Gotcha.
that's
So
a reminder. Yeah.
Yeah, you're using the summary with the date in it to help you figure out where it goes in here.
Exactly. My personal backlog is a lot longer than this, but I'm not showing my personal backlog because that's my stuff. Y'all don't need to see that. That's why I make a point to put the date. For me, it helps to put the day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. Right there in the summary. So that way I can, just when I'm glancing at my backlog, I can see that key information right there. I don't have to click into each work item to pull out the due date and, things like that. It can show here in this other column, but for me, it's easier to have that right there next to the key, next to the icon, right at the beginning.
Yeah, so one glance, you know exactly where to look to get all the pertinent information you need, to plan the week.
Yeah, that, and if I haven't gone into the work item yet and actually set the due date, it's still there in the summary.
And that's something that, in the corporate version, I'm forgetting all the time. There'll be some field I forget to fill in. So it's probably not a bad habit to start adding the more useful stuff to the summary. Yeah, just so it's more easily accessible and everyone knows where it's at.
Yep. So that's the high level stuff. What should I jump to next?
Yeah, I was going to ask with the project. So in Jira, the project, or soon to be called the space, we'll have to get used to.
Yep.
The container for work. Are you working with just one project for all of your stuff, or would you break this out like one project for weekly, one project for bigger trips?
Personally, for me, it's easier to keep everything in one project because the project is me. But if it would be easier to create a separate project for a trip you're planning or a separate project for all of your travel plans, do what works.
Gotcha. Just catching up on the chat here. There is a mobile version of Jira. Kythera, do you use it?
There is. I love Atlassian products very, very much. I love them more on desktop than on mobile. I do have that said, I do have the mobile apps on my phone. I have them on my iPad. I will use them when necessary, but given my preference, I will absolutely go to the desktop version. Even on my iPad, the iPad OS version of Chrome no longer works well with Atlassian tools, but Edge and Safari do. So I'll load those up on those browsers, request the desktop version, and if I'm mobile, I'll do all my management from there. If I'm in a pinch, say I'm away from home, don't have my iPad with me, I'll open up the mobile app on my phone and just really quickly add a work item type. But it's harder to remember to add more details and add that to whichever sprint I need to when I get home. But better to have it and need to organize it than not have it at all and forget about it entirely.
That's about where I fall with them. Like the apps exist, but it's non-ideal for me. So I'll use them in a pinch to cram something in, and then have to go back to the desktop.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to pull us back to some slides to talk more about how you set this thing up, and some more of the nuts and bolts. So could you walk us through setting up the project? Like, what are you doing? How do you set it up there to build success for yourself?
So if you're registering Jira for the first time, start with the free version, click the button. The on-screen instructions are very, very user-friendly and easy to follow. As part of your first time setup, it will walk you through creating your very first project. And by default, as far as I've noticed, at least right now at this time, your default project will be a team managed project. And I actually like that because for folks who are just getting started, the team managed version of Jira is a lot more user-friendly than the company managed version. which is another reason I set up a demo project for this, because I've been up to my eyebrows in a company managed Jira and the admin side of things for several years. So I'm used to how crunchy and complex the admin stuff gets.
Yeah.
So for this demo, team managed, it's a lot more user friendly. It's a lot easier to set up.
And I dropped in a quick poll asking folks what they think of them. I know there's a lot of contention on the corporate admin side,
Mhm.
where in a huge organization, team manage may not be the best choice in some cases. But for an individual,
Yeah.
struggling to learn how to set things up, like team manage is much simpler. It's easier to get started.
Yeah. And I mean, in a corporate situation, you've got to there's a whole lot of moving parts, a whole lot of different people using it, who have a whole lot of, different levels of experience. That's a whole lot of cats to herd. But when you're a team of one, you don't have to worry about anybody but yourself.
Hmm.
So that's another point in favor of do whatever works for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
You've mentioned these work items, and we've seen these great little emojis in part of it. How's your approach set up to those been, or what do you look for with them?
So I think about the kind of things I want to track. Appointments, that's definitely its own category because that's separate. That's a different flavor of task than, say, take out the trash
Hmm.
or do a second load of laundry. So having the calendar item reminds me, oh, hey, this is something that I scheduled. It's going to be on, a specific date and time. And it usually has a duration. So I'll actually add that to the original estimate field. Hobby stuff, again, that's a different flavor of to do. That's usually my fun stuff. Anything related to my cats, I like having, my little kitty icon there to tell me, okay, this is pet related stuff.
Hmm.
Recurring tasks. Sometimes that's bills, sometimes that's appointments, but having the recurring icon reminds me, okay, this is a regularly occurring thing. That might be different for you. Even if it's recurring, having an icon that's related to the specific type of task, again, whatever works. There are a lot of really useful resources out there for finding free icons. My two personal favorites are Emojipedia and Icon Scout.
I gotta
Uh,
try to spell
Emo-
that. Emo-
Emojipedia,
Emojipedia. Okay, I just
like
dropped that in chat.
Wikipedia, but instead of wiki, it's emoji.
Gotcha.
And that's really cool because it has not only every emoji under the sun for different platforms. Sorry, that was cat glitter. Cat glitter being cat fur. It gets everywhere. Uh, it's also got different versions. So the variety of stuff you can pick from is potentially overwhelming, but once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I know from like the corporate side, having flexibility to make something look and feel more useful helps with adoption. I can
Yes,
easily manage personally. You want this thing to look and feel friendly and something you like and enjoy versus the forced Atlassian icons we get.
right. Or when your company is standardizing work item types because they want teams to be able to go from project to project seamlessly.
Hmm.
That's a different use case, and it makes sense for that use case. But when it's for you yourself, make it as friendly for yourself as you want.
All right, we've spoken briefly about epics and how you use them to break things down.
Mhm,
Anything else you want to add to that? Like we've got the weekly tasks showing up,
mhm.
the bigger travel, other tips and tricks around using epics in here we should share.
Um, I think we hit all the high points. But yeah, just using them to group similar types of tasks, or group a bigger project if you're not using a separate Jira project to track bigger things. Just whatever makes sense for you. And I kind of showed how you can use them to group things on your sprint board. Like I said, use them in whatever way makes the most sense to you. Sometimes I've thought about creating an epic that's for events or scheduled items, and having all of my scheduled appointments and things under one epic, and that way they would be in their own swim lane on the dashboard. Thought about it, haven't implemented it yet, but
I
that's an
guess,
idea.
yeah, I guess kind of in that vein, how much like you've developed this system of working within Jira for your personal stuff, how much do you find yourself tinkering with it or trying new stuff?
Pretty much every time Atlassian sends an announcement that they've added something to Jira or modified something,
Mhm.
I'll take some time and tinker with it. I'll even make a sandbox project that's so it's separate from the stuff I'm actively working on. That's, so that way I can completely mess with it. I can totally wreck it if I need to. And then if it doesn't work, delete it and go back to what is working.
Gotcha. And that's just a reminder for folks. Atlassian is constantly tweaking
Yes.
Jira Cloud. So if you pop in and see something new, like Kythera is describing, engage with it and tinker with it and see how it can be useful.
Yeah.
Because some of these things you're going to look at and be like, and others you're like, oh wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Atlassian Jira's built-in recurring tasks is an excellent example. When they first announced it, I thought it was exactly the thing I had been looking for. And I'll talk about it in a little bit, but with the help of the Atlassian community forums, I set up an automation step that lets me clone an Epic and all of the linked child tasks just through a couple of button clicks. I thought the built-in recurring option would be the solution that I was looking for. It is not.
Oh,
It
no.
seems like a good idea, but when you click that button, it creates the automation, but you can't edit that automation. So if you want that task to recur every day, or let's say you want it to recur every Monday at 12:30 a.m., but you click that button at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday,
It
the
automatically
time you
kicks
click
in
the
on a
button is the
Wednesday.
time it's going to recur.
That's brilliant. Huh.
Yeah, and you can't rename the automation. So if you have, a dozen of these recurring tasks, you can't tell which is which just by looking at your list of automation rules.
Gotcha. So finding
So
some friction with what the
yeah,
nice people at Atlassian have built out for us.
yeah, they're onto something. They absolutely are. I think it just needs a lot more development.
Gotcha. If anyone from
Yep.
Atlassian is around, please let us know.
Yeah. If you want feedback, email me.
All right, workflows. So
Yep.
how are you leveraging these? What we're seeing here in this screenshot
Mm,
is possibly the simplest possible workflow we can have. So how
yeah.
are you using this to support what you need?
Yeah. This is the workflow that you get straight out of the box. You have 3 statuses: to do, in progress, and done. And by default, every status can transition to every other status. That's keeping it pretty basic. If you think you need more, sometimes I thought about adding a blocked status for, if I've started working on something and something goes sideways and I can't make any progress on it,
Mhm.
similar to, what some of my projects at work have had. Having it in that status might help, but usually for me, more often, it's enough to add a comment and leave it in the in progress column. So starting from something this basic and simple leaves a lot of room for customization if you want. But if this is enough, you don't have to do anything else. So it's a really good starting point.
Gotcha. Kind of back to that, if it works,
Yeah.
if it's silly and it works, it's not silly kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
I have a couple of work items in my personal Jira board that are tracking for some stuff that I've ordered, and it's shipping from China. So it's going to take some time.
Mhm.
The stuff is also going to take some time to produce. So I know this is not a work item that is going to move to done within 1, 2, or even 3 sprints. It's going to be living in that in progress column for a while.
Mhm.
If I was tracking metrics for work, that might throw things completely out of whack, but I'm the only one who cares about my metrics. So for me, it's enough that it's just okay. It's in that in progress column. It's still moving, and then when the package arrives, I'll move it over to done.
Gotcha. So that reminder that personal use will have a different approach or different slant than the
Right.
corporate use,
Yeah.
for lack of a better descriptor.
Yeah.
A couple of questions. I'll just go. A lot of interesting thoughts on the team managed projects, which most of the comments I'm seeing relate to having to administer them. Where did my chat go? Here we go. Scara7 loathes them from an admin perspective because of multiple different configurations.
Yeah.
It sounds like here though, Kythera, that's not a problem because it's just you.
It's just me. I'm the only one querying my own work, and in my case, I don't have a whole lot of different, Jira projects floating around. I have um my personal my personal board is called Garg Life because gargoyles are my thing. So, Gargoyle Life. That's my catch-all. Um it's company managed because, I'm a sucker for punishment. Uh but there really aren't any other projects for me to be querying. There was maybe the couple of sandbox projects that I've created, but those don't tend to live long. Once I'm done with my experiment, I delete it just to keep my Jira, my entire Jira instance fairly tidy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's from an admin perspective on the day job. I have absolutely been in that position. Having dozens of software development projects going on at one time. Some are company managed, some are team managed. Yeah, that can get a little unwieldy. So I absolutely appreciate it from that perspective. But when you're a team of one and you're the only one managing your projects, as long as you can still find what you're looking for at the end of the day, that's the important thing.
And there's this comment from Chris around in corporate settings, the team managed is a dirty word. But it sounds like we've inspired, or you've inspired at least one person to go give them a shot. So, Chris, thank you
Yeah.
for letting us know you'll give it a try and see what happens. I
The
almost
I was going to say the advantage to the team managed projects is when you're adding all of those custom work item types, they're not interfering with other projects and they're not cluttering up your list of work item types. So that's one benefit. But if you do want all of those work item types to be usable between projects, then you have to recreate them every time or go for the company managed version.
and Scaris, thank you for this call out. We're looking at the personal use here, but it's also a good reminder that, like, as Kythera was speaking, I was wondering, okay, in Confluence we have a personal space that's my little playground.
Right.
There's no similar thing in Jira.
Yeah.
On like the corporate level, I have to go find a
Right.
project to track my own stuff. I wonder if my own little personal Jira space would just be a team managed project that I can do whatever, to give folks that ability.
That's a really good example. And that if you are in a corporate setting, that might be worth contacting your friendly Atlassian admin and asking. It's like, hey, do we have the ability to make a team managed project that only I have access to? That could help you manage your tasks that are separate from whatever larger projects you're working on.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of ties into this question from Tushar. Have you used Trello, Kythera?
That's an excellent question, and I get it fairly often. I have used Trello. Trello is a really useful little tool. Famously, my favorite use case for it is organizing Thanksgiving preparations when I was visiting one of my partners. Because, for those of us in the US, we know Thanksgiving is a huge family get together type holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, it's found family and friends, that's still family as far as I'm concerned. There's usually a prep that goes on for days. So I'm, visiting with my partner, and for a day and a half, I'm listening to, hey, have you prepared this? Okay, great. Which fridge did you put it in? Because there's the kitchen fridge and there's the supplemental fridge out in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done this yet? No, you haven't. Okay. Oh shoot, we're out of this thing. We need to go to the store. Oh great, you're back from the store. Did you get the thing? Shoot, I forgot the thing. I went and set up a Trello project for our Thanksgiving planning. Made a bunch of cards tracking what needed to, be prepared, what needed to be purchased from the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Showed my partner how it works. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So, when, someone finally made the stuffing, okay, stuffing is done. Which refrigerator did you put it in? Added a comment to the card with which refrigerator it was put in.
It's all right there.
So yeah, that was a short-term, fairly contained project. And Trello is awesome for things like that. Where it falls down for me is I need the backlog. And Trello does not have backlogs. Every to-do task you have lives there in that to-do column. And I learned from watching one of your sessions with Brittany Joyner, you can collapse those, but that's still a whole lot of visual clutter. And for me, it becomes information overload and it's overwhelming and I don't even want to look at it anymore, which kind of defeats the purpose.
Gotcha. So
that's why I always end up going back to Jira.
Yeah, really appreciate that question, Tushar, because we all, in my experience, I tend to use a tool just because someone says, here's a tool you use. It sounds like Kythera has done the work to figure out, like, oh, I tried it and it didn't work for these reasons, and Jira works for these other reasons.
Right.
And that's where, in corporate environments and personal environments, we need to be open to that, because the tools we use should support our work in the best way possible, as opposed to frustrating us or causing issues. One more parting shot on the team managed stuff, Kythera. Chris has them sign a disclaimer saying they won't ask them to migrate it. Love that. Where's the other one? Scaraz sets up a separate instance for personal projects, so giving people that place to go track things
Mm.
in a separate contained environment. I like that approach, Scaraz.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent.
All right, Kythera, back to you for jumping back into Jira.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get your screen back. I
All
think
right,
I
here
do.
we are.
All right, so we've spoken about the backlog. Can you show us where you added in those work item types? Because it can be hidden up in the
Oh, yeah.
project settings.
So this is one of the other things I like about team managed projects is it's really easy to get into your settings. Let me go back and do that again. So, from anywhere in your Jira project, find your project. So we're working in Jira demo. Look for those the little ellipsis icon, which is the more option. Select project settings, and here on the left you'll see work types.
Yeah.
In Team Manage, it's pretty stripped down, but I kind of like that. So right here, it shows you all the stuff I've added. And if I want to add a new work item type, click the button. I deleted the bug work type from this because I'm not reporting any bugs in my life. If I am, I'm making myself a reminder to call the exterminator.
Mm-hmm.
So from here, click create work item type, give it a name. Adding a description helps me remember what this is for. I'm the only one using it, so I kind of remember, but it helps keep me on track. I'm going to change the item. I'm not going to go looking through all my hard drive for an icon, so let's pick one from what we've already got uploaded, or what we've got some of the defaults that are available.
Now, even doing this in a corporate setting, I found has been useful. Again, we want the system to seem more welcoming and
Right.
open. So for y'all admins out there in a corporate setting, make sure you're taking time to match up or find better icons for
Yes.
your work item types.
Yeah. And especially for me, the outline type, it's visually very different from some of the other custom items icons I've used. So that's going to stick out for me. But for some people don't mind that. They'll use, the style match doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you. But for the sake of getting through this quickly, I picked the light bulb icon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll create that. And bam, that's it. From here, I can go through and customize the fields associated with this work item type. I usually take out team because
You're
I'm
the
the only
team.
one working on this. So for me, it's not really relevant and I don't need the visual clutter.
Mm-hmm.
I am the reporter and the assignee, so I'll move that to the bottom of the stack. I just have a personal preference for an order that looks a bit like this. Whatever works for you. If order matters, reorder it however you want. If order doesn't matter, take the defaults and run.
Yeah, and
Save my changes. There we go.
Yeah, and I imagine the fields you're using are based on what you need to track. So
Yeah.
something that I never spend enough time in figuring out what data do I need to record on these things.
Yeah.
How much time?
Oh, I was going to say, if you run with the defaults and you discover later on, shoot, you know what? I want a priority associated with this. It's really easy to go back to the screen and, add that priority field. Or if I have an estimate for how long this is going to take, I'll add that original estimate and then add the time tracking field so I can keep track of how long it actually takes. So even if you don't think of a metric when you start, if one occurs to you later, you can go back and add it.
Gotcha. So that flexibility to go and just adjust, and don't be afraid to go change things to make them more useful for you.
Right. Because you're not interrupting anybody else's workflow. You're the only one doing this. So if it's working or not working for you, make whatever adjustments you need.
Gotcha. All right. I think we've got a couple more slides. There is one thing I want to make sure you have time to show, which is some of the automation magic.
Yes.
So let me go find, I think here are our final slides.
Yes.
And then we'll go talk about how Kythera uses automations to kind of help keep track of everything, which to me was after she described it, a big no-brainer, but before then had no clue what was going on. So.
Yeah, so I wanted to keep track of, my weekly repeat tasks, which basically it's weekly chores. I've got at least one weekly standing appointment that I want to keep track of. Recreating those work items every week would be a pain in the butt. That would take more time than I want to spend doing it. Well, Jira's got automations, and I asked myself, can I set up an automation to do this? The short answer was yes. The long answer was yes, I can do it. I have no clue how. I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer. My brain doesn't think that way. So after beating my head against Jira automations for a whole afternoon, I finally went to the Atlassian community forums and said, hey, y'all, I need your help with this. This is what I want to do. How do I set this up in automation? And the amazing folks there offered me some suggestions. There was a lot of back and forth, and eventually we found the right combination that works. So now I open a work item. In my case,
Oh,
you're on the slides. Once we go back to the live demo, I will actually show you how it works. So I created an epic. I thought about all the tasks that I want to track every week. I created those as individual child work items linked to that epic. And every week when I do my sprint planning, I will clone that epic. The entire suite of work items gets cloned. And then I go in and, assign a due date, add them to the sprint that they're going to be associated with. And, once that Monday rolls around, start my sprint, and there's all my tasks.
Gotcha. So you're like, for your planning, you're slotting in a lot of these weekly things just automatically with that automation, and then you'll tweak them a bit. You'll have the dates, you might
Right.
change the thing on it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get it out of the backlog. So your backlog is kind of being fed 5 or 6 or 7, however many items every single week automatically.
Right.
And you might add in more, but then you just throw them into a sprint and off you go.
Right. And if some of those weekly tasks change, like that standing appointment, it has changed dates sometimes. So what I'll do is I'll go back to I call it the source epic, modify the source child item, and then after that, every time I clone it, it uses the new date and time. Or if there's a new weekly task I need to slot in, I'll add that to the source epic. Or if there's one I no longer need to do, I can remove it from the source. So it doesn't change things retroactively, but moving forward, it helps me keep more organized. And I just saw a comment come in, why choose Sprint instead of Kanban? Kanban boards are like Trello. They don't have the backlog. I've tried this, and it's that backlog that is what works best for me. If a Kanban board works for you, use a Kanban board. The Sprint is totally optional. It's just what works for me.
Yeah, and a good question, because those are 2 options. But if we're thinking of, planning just a week at a time, that's where in my mind the Scrum board
Right.
it fits in better, because you can put those what are they called? Iterations. Thank you.
Yes. And like I've mentioned, having the backlog is using that ADHD object permanence to my advantage instead of my detriment or having to fight against it. If I add a work item for an appointment that I have coming up in a couple of months, or a reminder that's more than a few weeks out, that's not lingering in the to-do column and building up this log of things that becomes overwhelming. It goes in the backlog. I have to review it every week, so I'm not forgetting about it entirely. I get that reminder every week when I do my sprint planning. But during the week, it's not weighing me down, and it's not building up my anxiety and overwhelming me with, oh my gosh, I have all these things coming up and I need to worry about them now. No, I don't. I can worry about them when I add them to the sprint.
Yeah, and when you choose to plan, you can go deal with it. It's not staring you in the face.
Right, exactly.
Now, you've mentioned comments a couple of times. How have you been using those? Because in my experience, I'm typically commenting at someone. I'm commenting at Lance saying, hey, here's what I need. With a team of 1, just yourself, what do they do for you?
It helps me keep track of what I have done related to a work item. So, like for this one of my work items for this week was spend at least 2 hours this week on doing hobby stuff. And that was my way of intentionally planning some self-care time, working on your hobbies and the things that, feed your spirit is good to do. And I've been kind of slacking on that lately. So you know what? I'm going to make myself a task for this. So I set 2 hours as my goal. I figured that's reasonable. And I didn't really add a description because I was keeping it open-ended, whatever hobby stuff I wanted to work on. But as I was working on it, I logged some time. For the demo, I realized I had to go back and retroactively add a comment. But I noted I spent an hour sketching on Monday, and I added the date. Yesterday, I spent another 2 hours working on digital art. So I actually went for 3 hours, but this tells me what I did and when.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a way, it's sort of note to self. What did I do? Did I run into any hiccups related to this task? Is there anything delaying it? Or let's say I add a work item for an appointment, but that appointment gets canceled. Well, I don't want to delete that work item. It might come back up later, but I'll move it to done and add the comment, this appointment was canceled. We'll reschedule later. So when I go back and look at it, it reminds me what was going on related to this. And that's where that's useful.
Yeah, your own context. So when you do trip over
Yeah.
it later,
Right.
whether that's tomorrow or in 6 weeks,
Mhm.
you know what's going on.
Exactly. And I mentioned I have some in progress work items that are tracking some items that I ordered. It's going to sound a little bit vain, but I ordered some of those custom acrylic items, some keychains with my own artwork on them.
Mm-hmm.
So having that work item on my Jira board that says, okay, this is what I ordered. I included, the price. I had a coupon, so what the discount was, and the shipping costs. I added comments whenever I was sent a digital proof. I had to ask for corrections to one, made a note of that. They sent me the new proof, added that as a comment. And then when I got the shipping notification, I added another comment with the tracking number.
Yep. So all in
that's
one
giving,
spot. Yeah.
yeah, that's giving me all the information related to that order in one place instead of having to constantly search my Gmail and, click through, a bunch of different results trying to find the information that I want.
Gotcha. We briefly spoke about automations. Did you have one set up in the demo instance we can show folks?
I do, absolutely, because I think this is magical.
All right.
All right. So, demo project, I've already got it on my list. I love the list function when they added this because it shows me all of this stuff that's, still relevant and it's easy to search. So I will search for, oops, if I spell things correctly. Come on, you can find it. There we go. So the very first work item I made was the epic for the container epic for my weekly tasks. So here it is. I marked everything as done. Real quick, I just saw a comment come in. Do you use the time tracking feature for logging the time spent on this task or that? Absolutely, I do. I don't always remember to do it, but when I do remember, you bet I put my time tracking in there. That's also really useful for hobby stuff when I'm trying to figure out how long does something actually take me to do? Because sometimes people will ask me, well, how long does it take you to accomplish this thing? And one too many times I'm like, you know what? I have no idea because I didn't keep track. So I'm trying to get better about using that to help me figure out what my averages are. But back to the automation. So I created the epic and my initial set of repeat tasks. I marked them all as done. Whenever you clone this, they'll be in the to-do column. But this way, it's also not haunting my backlog. Only the cloned version will be in my backlog. So after I set up the automation, I clicked the little lightning bolt over here. I named the automation exactly what it does, clone an epic and children. Give that a click. That's all you have to do, and it starts doing the thing.
Gotcha. So just a manual trigger that will pull in all those for you.
Yeah, it's a manual trigger because I have not been able to figure out how to make this automatically trigger, say, every Saturday before I do my sprint planning. As backwards as it sounds, at least for me, it's easier to do the manual trigger. I have more control over when it happens, and I'm paying attention when it does.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Not backwards, just different.
Different, yes. Thank you. So now, Demo 69, that's my brand new set of work items. And there it is. It's right at the top of my list as soon as I clear out the search terms. So from here, I can rename, I can change the name of the summary to the week this is associated with. I've lost track of which sprints are in my backlog. So, all right, sprint 3 would be September 1st to September 8th. So I'll go back to my list. And then from here, I can just expand the epic. It'll show me the child items, change my due date. Oh, that's a couple weeks ahead. So there we go. That will be sprint 3. If there was a way to bulk add all of these to the same sprint, that would be fantastic. But so far, just going down and clicking and adding them to sprint 3, that's the fastest way I've come up with. Okay, so Thursday, that's my weekly appointment. So that'll be Thursday the 9th of September.
Gotcha. So it's inserting the work items. There's still a little bit of cleanup.
Yeah,
there's like dates for the sprint.
Right. So for the repeat tasks that don't really have a deadline other than the end of the sprint, I tend to put the Sunday before my sprint changes over.
Mm-hmm.
That way I still have a deadline, but I'm not, in my head, I know I'm not locked into that deadline. It's whenever I get it done. If the dishes need to be done on Tuesday, I do the dishes on Tuesday and just get it done.
They slide around.
Yeah.
All right.
And if I need to do the dishes twice, I do the dishes twice.
All right. We are near the top of the hour. Thank you so much for walking us through this, Kythera. I guess a couple of parting thoughts. As you can see, Kythera is open to work. I've got a bunch of links and a bunch of other information. That is a URL. Check out Kythera on LinkedIn, that QR code at the bottom, but a lot of other information about Kythera if you want to get in touch with her. Great technical writer, has helped me quite a bit in making these things look good. So please definitely reach out. I'm thrilled you wanted to partner with me on this, because I do think there's a lot of different ways these tools can be used, and we get stuck in the way we have used them.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you helping us understand how to kind of break out of those. And folks, if you've got questions, drop them in the chat. I'll do my best to send a follow-up response with all the answers. And this is recorded, so you can come check it out. But any final thoughts, parting shots of wisdom, Kythera, before we wrap up? All right. Can't tell if we lost you there. Folks, I do want to thank you all for joining us. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you're using these tools for your personal use and all that. And keep in mind, there are many different ways to use these platforms. Again, we're all exposed to one way of using them when we're first shown, here's how they work. But then it can quickly change, and we can use them in different ways. So please keep being open to other ways we can use the tools. I think we lost Kythera due to a power outage, which was probably not very bad timing because it was at the end. But thank you all again for joining. If you like this, please hit the like button. I'm looking for, again, sharing more content and more ways of using these things. So thank you all again. I'll leave the chat open for a little bit, but have a